Okay, so we are going to be watching a video on the decline in birth rates. Why are people having less and less children? So let's watch this.
Countries need babies. Elon Musk is saying that civilization is going to crumble if people don't have more children. Elon wants everyone to have more babies, and he's practicing what he preaches. He has 10 children and counting. See, in order to grow your economy, you have always needed to grow your population. This is how it works. People work, they pay taxes, they provide value, they spend money. But the global birth rate is in decline.
So the global birth rate is obviously in decline. When a house costs $500,000 and the minimum wage is $7.25, of course people are going to be like, no, I'm not having kids. You'd have to be insane to have kids in this market. You'd have to be insane to have kids in this economy, in this country. Okay, America is not affordable to individuals, let alone families. If you do have a kid, you are pretty much dooming your child to a life of poverty, a life of struggle, a life of hardship, a life of no purpose, because all of our jobs are getting replaced by machinery. There's no plan, there's no universal basic income, there's no free medical care, there's no public transportation system. America is just a playground for the rich. Where do we come in this world? We won't be able to afford a house, which is a very basic standard of the American dream.
It's been declining for decades. See, the average woman had 4.7 children in 1950, but by 2020, that number had dropped to 2.4 children.
So 4.7, almost 5 children per woman. 5 children. And now it's barely at 2. It's barely at 2. That's barely above replacement levels. Okay, that means we're on track to go extinct. Male infertility is on the uptick. Female infertility is on the uptick. Why is this not top priority for all these scientists? We spent so much time worried about COVID and not enough time worried about humans in general, human health in general, and it shows. The world has only gotten more sick. The world has only gotten more poor. The rich have only gotten richer, and we're on track to just go extinct. There'll be a small select people in our society, a small elite in our society that are actually able to have children because they are so rich they can basically buy up the entire world. But the rest of us will just fade into obscurity.
But despite that decline, they were still having enough baby to ultimately grow a country's population. But now the birth rate is getting so low that a population might not be growing or even replenishing, to the point where you have a country like Japan where its total population is on the decline.
So Japan is a very terrifying reality for a country with no birth rates. So and a lot of people are saying, oh, Japan should let in immigrants, let immigrants come in and fill the. No, a country should not have to let in millions of immigrants just to keep a stable population. That's not right. um that is their home country. Imagine if we just let in a bunch of Chinese immigrants come to America. The population of China is 1 billion, well over 1 billion. And let's just say we have no restrictions on Chinese people coming here, and then they just come in here, and at a certain point, it won't even be America. It will just be China 2.0. So once you let in immigrants from other cultures come here, and I'm not trying to be xenophobic, but this is just the reality, then you lose some of the native culture. There's no time to assimilate these people. If they're just coming in here so fast, there's no time. And how is that fair? Why is it that the country is so poor, so disillusioned, so dystopian that people can't have children and they need to import children? Children are made, they're not imported.
And this could be a major problem.
Be cautious about civilizational decline and we have plummeting birth rates in most places. Yeah.
And also plummeting resources.
Resources will be fine.
See, if your birth rate falls below what's called the replacement rate, then ultimately your population will decline unless you bring in immigrants. And more countries are now falling below the replacement rate. Japan has one of
Instead of looking at the root problem, which is the capitalist inequality pyramid scheme, which is our country. It's just one giant pyramid scheme. People up top have everything they could ever want. They can have as many children as they could ever want, and the people on the bottom, they can't even afford a house. A lot of people actually can't even afford a studio apartment in the city they live in. So instead of trying to import a bunch of people with no ties to our country, with no history in our country, and are basically just there for economic opportunities. They're not there because they love America. They are here for gains on their end. Why don't we just make the economy more suitable to the people who are here? Why don't we add programs for people to literally make more children? That makes no sense.
the lowest birth rates in the world, with a fertility rate of just 1.3 births per woman. That's
well below replacement level. That is massively low, below replacement. That's like half. For every two women, there's only like 2 children. So that means you have negative, because you need a man and a woman to create a baby.
well below the replacement rate, which would need to be 2.1. Italy's birth rate is also very low, just 1.2 births per woman.
That is terrible. That's even worse than Japan.
That's the lowest ever. Spain's is now 1.2, which is below the replacement rate.
So this is, you cannot have a functioning society where there's only 1 birth per woman. You just can't. Who's going to take care of the elderly? Who's going to take care of the older generation? Nobody. We're so focused on the grind hustle culture. We're so focused on our career. We're so focused on just keeping our head above water, that we're not focused on family. We're not focused on the next generation. We've ditched the next generation, and those future children that are born in this society will be just surrounded by old people that they'll have to take care of. There won't be anybody else to help them. So they'll just, for every 1 child, there'll be like 2 elderly people they have to take care of. That's not fair to them. That is not fair. That is beyond not fair. And elderly people, they can't do the same amount of labor that a younger person can do. They can't think as fast. They can't do any of that. So all the pressure will be on the younger generation to take care, selfishly, the older generation.
South Korea's is the lowest in the world. It's 0.8 births per woman. Even China, one of
What? 0.8?
South Korea's is the lowest in the world. It's 0.8 births per woman.
So 0.8 births, not even 1.
Even China, one of the world's most populous country, its birth rate has fallen to 1.7 births per woman, which is also below the replacement rate. But first of all, there's a number of reasons why women are having less babies, like the rising costs of raising children, women's education and employment, and most recently, the growing trend of people delaying childbirth or choosing not to have children at all. Elon Musk has been a vocal advocate to have more children. He has said that the world
Yeah, just have more children, bro. Just have as many children as you want. And then when you can't afford them, they'll probably either be taken away from you. You can't. Why would you have children that you can't afford? And if you've seen the movie Idiocracy, it basically says that all the dumb people are having children, and all the smart people are delaying having children. And then you get a society where there's there's basically people that are raising children they can't afford. People raising children they can't take care of.
needs more people to solve the problems of climate change and space exploration. Musk also said that he believes that having children is one of the most important things that a person can do. And he said that children bring joy and meaning to life. And this is a man who has had 10 children. But almost no
Because he's rich and he can afford to have children.
one is actually thinking like Elon Musk, who also happens to be the world's richest person.
The world's richest person. If I was the world's richest person, I could do a lot better than 10 children. I'd make like freaking 1,000. Hit the world record. It's not like you can't afford them.
Most people are thinking about the rising costs of raising a child. The average middle-income family with 2 kids will spend about $310,000 to raise a child that was born in
$310,000. $310,000. That's more. And people are bogged down with student loans, and student loans are only like $50,000. And how much it costs? $310,000 to raise how many children? Just one? Just one child is $310,000.
Most people are thinking about the rising costs of raising a child. The average middle-income family with 2 kids will spend about $310,000 to raise a child that was born in
$310,000 for 2 kids. 2 kids. That's insane. That there's no way. There's no way. Imagine shaming anybody under 35 for not having children. I mean, if you're older and you have a little bit more money, yeah, I guess you can have children because you have savings and whatnot. But if you're under like 35, there's just no way. There's just no way. We're telling people to go to school, get an education, spend a bunch of money on college debt. All this frivolous nonsense. Buy the fastest cars, get the biggest house, and then next thing you know, they're bogged down with a huge mortgage payment. They're paying out the wazoo for a car loan. They have all this credit card debt. Of course they can't have children. Of course they can't afford to have children. And I'm not saying that that's the reason people can't afford children, but that's a huge factor. We are so focused on gimme. I need this. I need the biggest. I need the fastest car. I need to go to the best parties. I need to go to the best events. I need to buy the best clothes. And these people end up financially retarded because they don't know how to save money in an already messed up economy. And these are the same people that literally live paycheck to paycheck with no savings, nothing. And you could even play things by the book and still end up living paycheck to paycheck. Now, mind you, the minimum wage is only $7.25 an hour. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to afford anything outside of bare minimum. You for sure won't be able to afford children without government assistance.
2015 from birth till age 17. But other estimates put that figure more like $1 million. And then there is a whole movement around not having babies because of the fear of global warming. This is an idea that having a baby is selfish because you're bringing a human onto this planet, which has a really bad future.
Launch Birth Strike. It's a group of people who will not have children because of climate change.
But why do economists freak out so much about the global birth rate decline? And what does a falling birth rate mean for the US economy? A study done by Pew Research Center found that if the current trend continues, the US workforce would shrink by 12% by 2050. This could make it a lot more difficult for the US economy to grow and prosper. Another factor of a declining birth rate is that it would lead to a decline in tax revenue. The US government collects billions of dollars in taxes from parents each year. And if there are fewer parents, well, there will be less tax revenue. And that would likely lead to cuts in government programs and services. And finally, the decline in...
Well, we all know how the US economy is run. It's not ran off taxes, it's ran off money printing, paper, fiat money printing. So whoever controls the money printing can just make as much US dollars as they possibly can. To say that, oh man, we're gonna miss out on taxes, like that actually matters. Okay, we all know how this is run.
birth rate could also lead to a decline in social cohesion. A study...
Yes, that is the biggest threat with a low birth rate. The decline in social cohesion. Imagine there being like 10 people under like 20 living in a city or a town or a city, whatever neighborhood, and there's like 1,000 older people. Do you think that's fair? There used to be like 100 children for every like 50 adults or 20 adults. Now it's like 100 old people for every like 20 young adults. So there's less and less people of that generation to socialize with. They're mostly surrounded by people that are older. Like everywhere you go, it seems like there's 100 older people, people under like 40, over like 40, and they're just everywhere. And there's barely any young people, barely any people your age. And it's insane. And the only exception is if you live in a college town, you might be surrounded by younger people, but for the most part, you're going to be surrounded by older people because that's just the way the demographics are.
study by the Brookings Institution found that a shrinking population can lead to problems such as crime and poverty. So the US will have to minimize the negative implications for the economy, and they can do this by making it more affordable to raise children, providing more support for working parents, and changing cultural expectations about having children. But hold up. There are some benefits of a declining global birth rate as well. Number one, a smaller environmental footprint. See, a declining birth rate means there will be fewer people consuming resources and producing emissions, and this could help.
How does a human produce emissions? What is being being alive is literally, they're saying being alive is a threat to the world. People have been alive for thousands of years. The world hasn't ended. Maybe it's our behavior that's the problem, not the fact that we're alive that's the problem.
Help to reduce the impact that humans have on our planet. And second could be a more educated and skilled workforce. See, a declining birth rate means that there will be fewer children to educate, which could lead to a more educated and skilled workforce that would boost economic growth. And when you think about artificial intelligence, this actually might really make a big difference. While the global birth rate is declining, there are some parts of the world where the birth rate is actually very high. One of these places is Africa. The average woman in Africa has 4.7 children, much higher than the global average of 2.4 children. There are a number of factors that contribute to the high birth rate in Africa. One factor is the lack of access to contraception, and another factor is just a cultural expectation that women should have many children. Developed countries like the US, the UK, and Japan are dealing with a lower birth rate and having to figure out how to incentivize women to have more babies. And the solution to this is often what's called a baby bonus. A baby bonus is where you essentially give a woman thousands of dollars to subsidize the cost of having a baby. But there is no evidence to suggest that these baby bonus programs are actually working. In fact, there is some evidence
That won't fix the problem. That will not fix the problem. If you want people to have more children, you have to fix the economy at large. Okay, if you're just rewarding people for having children and you're not giving them, do they have to have a job? Do they have to be self-sustaining? Okay, let's say a person doesn't have a house but is having like tons of children. Are you just going to keep giving them money? No, no, because you reward people for bad behavior. You're rewarding people just for having children, not for being a good mother, not for being a good parent, not for being a good father. You're just saying, have more children. We'll take care of it later.
To support it can have the opposite effect. A study by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that a cash incentive program in Russia actually led to a decrease in the birth rate. This
See, what did I tell you?
study found that the program led to an increase in the number of abortions and a decrease in the number of live births. Another study by the University of Chicago found that a cash incentive program in Mexico had no significant effect on the birth rate.
So it's kind of like reverse psychology. If it's gotten to the point where you actually need to convince people with money to have children, then you've already freaking lost.
The study found that the program led to a small increase in the number of births, but this increase was not statistically significant. There are a number of reasons why paying a woman to have a baby may not actually be effective. One reason is that it might not address the underlying reasons of why women are choosing not to have children. For example, if a woman says she doesn't want to have a child because she can't afford to raise them, then paying them a little bit of money will not solve the problem. Another reason is that it may just send the wrong message. It may send the message that having children is a financial decision rather than a personal one.
Yup. It's a cultural issue and a systemic issue with our economy. Okay? We see places like Skid Row. We see places like Kensington and Philadelphia. Who would want to birth a child into that world where they might end up like that? Okay, we have no safety nets at all, nothing. And just the financial cost of having a child. Literally, the process of having a child is literally tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, you're saying, have a child, have a kid, have a kid, have a child, have a child. And then once you go to the hospital to have that baby, they charge you tens of thousands of dollars and they hike up the price, they price gouge because it's something they know you need. And they hand you a big fat bill on top of all the other bills that you'll have to pay. It's one giant slap on the face. If you really wanted to help people have children, you'd freaking make healthcare free.
One, which could lead women to feeling pressured to have children even if they don't want one. The declining birth rate seems to be in the headlines more and more and more, and while economists think that this is actually a really bad thing, you could also argue that with artificial intelligence growing so rapidly, maybe you can still have a high GDP output without needing as many humans in your country. But I guess only time will tell if that's actually true. But I want to know in the comments, what do you think about the global declining birth rate? Do you see it as a problem? And if so, what do countries and governments need to do? While you're at it, check out more of my videos and don't forget to subscribe.
So, yeah, it's over. I mean, they're already saying, oh, we're just going to replace you guys with AI. No need for more children. Not fixing any of the problems. So I think this is all deliberate. They don't want to fix the problems. They'd rather have everything continue on this way where things get more financially unfeasible to have children. Okay, in the 1950s, a freaking janitor working 40 hours a week could raise a family of 5, and now a person in their 20s, able-bodied, can't even afford to freaking raise one kid. He can't even raise himself, honestly. So we're not addressing the root problems of this. This is clearly late stage capitalism, where the rich have gotten so rich They literally own everything. And the bottom half of this country owns nothing. Okay? I think like three people, the top three people own like the bottom, more than the bottom 50% of wealth. Okay, that's just insane. That's insane. You cannot have a functioning country where this inequality is just able to thrive non-stop. No push. There's no way to stop it. It's rigged. The system is working as intended. Okay, if you think, oh, they'll fix it in my lifetime, no, they won't. By the time you're old and dying, things will have only gotten worse, only gotten way worse. It won't get fixed. It won't get fixed until people start finally understanding what is going on and how to stop it. So yeah, the decline in birth rates. Why are people having fewer babies? Let me know in the comments.